work by both Mandy and Dillon Naylor over the years. Where is he?
Where? Yes.
He's here.
Dillon?
There he is. Come in.
We're talking about you.
We're talking about Dillon Naylor over the years. So, I'm honoured to be here tonight to launch this exhibition of work by Dillon and Mandy, Dark Contrasts. For those of us who are students of Australian comic book history, or perhaps that should be more expressed as the Australian comic book story, tonight is a historic occasion. This is an important exhibition. Yeah, it's a comics exhibition. That fact in and of itself makes you raise your eyebrow. Say, yeah, great, good. But then you see who is exhibiting here tonight, and the hairs stand up on the back of your neck, if you have any hairs there. Because this is, I mean, either, if it was an exhibition of Mandy's work, if it was an exhibition of Dillon's work, you know, you'd think fantastic and go along, I want to please see something fantastic. The fact that it's both of them makes you go, ooh. You know, this here is Australian comic books royalty, folks. This is our Dark Prince and our First Lady of Noir. So Naylor, or you know, you're coming in, you think, oh, it's going to be a lot of black. Oh, it's going to be good. They're going to be on the walls. So you get here with a certain amount of anticipation, as well as a prayer of thanks going out to the Town Hall Gallery and its most excellent curator, Marty Novak, who's a real friend of the comics art form. So let's thank her. So that's one of you're coming along, and you get here, as I did yesterday, and you're pretty blown away. This is big. This is significant, and let me explain why. I really want to talk about two aspects of this exhibition, which mean that it's sort of, you know, you feel the whoa, whoa, whoa sort of thing, the impact lines coming out from this exhibition across space and time. So the first thing I want to talk about is craft. Dillon Naylor is a one-man comics industry. Who's often worked with other people in the Australian comics world, but his influences, Hergé's Tintin, Karl Barks's Donald Duck, horror comics, these ones, they bleed through his work, he's honed them into a variety of, I don't know, he's a one-man, yeah, as I say, sort of industry, you know, he's got different schools within him. So there's the hilarious cruelty of Dar and Dill. There's the precise observations of sharehouse hell and harmony in pop culture and 2-minute noodles. And there's sweet kid comics with bite, like Patricia, just to name a few of Dillon comics world. He's our most prolific self-publisher, publisher. The Showbag books number we were talking before over a shawarma in the hundreds of thousands. Hundreds of thousands. Dillon at the one stage was hiring people to help him get these books out. Somebody had to tell him, you're in Australia, stop! You can't take it too far. Amazing. He's a newspaper strip cartoonist, which is our oldest profession in the comics biz. He's a master of colour and black and white and of snappy dialogue. His comics, they pop off, and pop, you know, is the effective word here, they pop off the page. They entertain the brain and they gladden the eye. And to top it all off, he's a very lovely bloke. Oh. Isn't that true? It's true, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Mandy brings a sensibility to her comics which is, in part at least, formed by art school years in Canberra, crashing into her reading of an incredibly fertile time of publishing, reading comics which are coming out, of experimental and auto-bio comics which were coming from North America, particularly in the 80s and 90s. Her self-published comic, Will Not, and I'm just staggered to come here and see #1. There's a #1 of Will Not in that case down there. You know, hope you've got this place alarmed and, you know, patrolled by dogs.
It's all insured.
Good, nice. I don't care about insured. That book then never needs to. It needs to be
I've got
protected.
John with a shotgun out the front.
So her self-published Will Not, #1 is down there with a big Kermit the Frog on it. You can check it out. Will Not from the 90s was a mainstay of the comics mail underground, wherein packages of comics would crisscross Australia by post. Yes, kids. Listen to cranky old Uncle Bern. Mail. It's all true. And anthologies that she's organised, Fruity Murmurs and Pantry, helped to further what I think of as an Australian school of comics and cartooning. Though I must say, as a caveat to that, it was and remains a school without uniforms, rules, much in the way of equipment, and a bunch of fairly dodgy teachers who always seem to be down the back of the shoulder shed smoking. So it's a funny school, the Australian School of Comics. It's a good school, you know, we learn a lot. Mandy's iconic one-eyed girl autobiographical character, her thick and invulnerable brushwork, and a preparedness to use the comic book page to pose questions about her own life, about all of our lives, meaning that her comics engage our humanity and involve us in conversations with her and the work to understand the world. And, to top it all off, yeah, she's a lovely woman. Contrasts, okay, it's called contrast. Contrasts. Are there contrasts? Yeah, of course there are contrasts, I guess, between these things. Yeah, Dillon's work, it embraces the fictional much more, the pop culture referential. His inking is a smooth and slick and glorious thing. Mandy's work, including her big comic graphic novel, Rooftops, it's autobiographical. And her inking style or approach to inking is really hard. You can try and write this for a long time without coming up with a word to describe it, but expressionist, you know, like German expressionist, is my best pass at a description today. But, you know, there's stuff, I think there's many things, you know, behind me here there's a Nick Cave-ish sort of guy in one of Mandy's strips, which is actually not here, but there's a Nick Cave story, so there's that in common. There's also a brilliant sense of humour in operation and control of dialogue in operation in both of these writers, artists, cartoonists, comic book makers' work. For example, down here, the supermarket cops, there's Constable Peters and Sergeant Arse. Now, it's like an arse. Brilliant. And down here we've got some, is it a Fireballs comic, and they're talking to Satan, and are they calling you big red-skinned poof? Yeah, I mean, I think you're getting a bit of a sense of the Australian, well, you know, not Australian, I wouldn't say you're Australian, Ned Kelly helmets on you or anything, but there's, you know, there's more, there's a lot that's shared, there's a lot that's shared. Okay, so I suppose I've been wanting to talk about craft as one of the things that you can think of as you're looking at the work in this exhibition. The other thing, I think it's more important, almost in a way, is what this exhibition represents is time. And that's remarkable. This exhibition is retrospective of both these careers to date. Work going back through their cartooning lives, and you can trace developments and changes and influences and experiments. And this is vital because for the student of the Australian comic story, for all of us,
It reminds us and reassures us and we can rejoice in the fact that there is a story, that it is happening right now, and that it has been continuing, and it has come from somewhere. The works of both these artists show us the journey. In the case of them both, in the case of Mandy, Dillon and Naylor, it has come from years, decades of dedication to the art of ink, on paper, telling stories. And we are blessed, you and I are blessed indeed, to walk amongst these works, which go back years, and to walk amongst their fine, human, humble, ambitious creators, who always look to the future and to the comics that they will create there. So, I'd like to invite you to raise a huzzah for Mandy and Dillon. Long may they reign in our world here. Long may they create comics for us all. So on the count of three, this huzzah, which is a good sound to make for them. 1, 2, 3. Huzzah!